I can't believe they would do this. Do they know who I am? It's unbelievable. How could they allow me to be part of Stories 2 in the council, but not award me the rank of Monstie? This has never been done before. All I want is to have children from eggs.
I am an adult. Who am I kidding? Ladies, gentlemen, and Monsties of all ages, Stories 2 is completely unplayable because you can't ride a baby Duramboros. Okay, that's bullshit, obviously, but I feel a bit better now. Stories 2 is great, but what the hell, Capcom? There are 6 monsters in Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, as well as their subspecies, that I am genuinely sad to not have as rideable counterparts. 6 monsters that have been fully built into the game. They're completely visually realized. They're also enemy creatures that you can fight against, and you can take part in those fights, and you can see all of their mechanics and such, but you can't find their eggs because they don't have babies in the game for you to have as friends. I know that 6 is a relatively small number when you compare it to the overall number of Monsties that we get in the game, but I just sort of want to know why. Because for some people, this may be a thing that just frustrated them when they found out that they couldn't have a Tetsucabra for a moment, but I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world whose favorite monster of all time is one of these 6. Now, they may not be the most popular monsters, but every monster is someone's favorite. Duramboros is mine, and I was genuinely ecstatic when I saw that he was in the game, and from that moment onwards, I couldn't stop thinking about all the possibilities and just the sheer joy of the concept of being able to ride a goddamn baby mountain cow and fight alongside each other as comrades. And the main thing that bothers me is I just don't know why not. Daimyo Hermitaur is a monster that was in the first game but had no Monstie, and arguably the main reason for that is, well, it'd be a bit hard to put a saddle on a crab. And you know what? I may disagree with that. I think there are definitely many ways to do that, to put a saddle on a crab, but it might be a little uncomfortable for the rider. It's possible, but back on track of Duramboros, he doesn't have that issue. He has humps, sure, lovely lady humps, but he is a brute wyvern at the end of the day, and he is a relatively normal shape. Putting a saddle on him could not be that hard. Tetsucabra is another one that you see very early in Monster Hunter Stories 2, but cannot find a Monstie of. This one, I know lots of people enjoy this monster. I've seen people talking about this one, and the best part for him is that we have literally seen a hunter on top of a baby Tetsucabra in Rise. Master Hojo is essentially a Tetsucabra rider. I'm just saying, if he can do it, why can't we? He doesn't even have a kinship stone the last time I checked. The fact that their fights are fully developed, that they've been given all of these unique mechanics that no other monster in the game has, and that those mechanics just don't translate to Monsties is really sad. One of my favorite parts of this game is running into a monster that I recognize from the main franchise, seeing it try to represent its moveset within the game, then getting their Monstie version and seeing how that translates to them, as they usually wind up much more restricted than the actual enemy monster version. Well, we just didn't get that for these creatures. And if we didn't get these 6 creatures and their specifically baby versions, then I guess the whole game is pointless, right? No, the game's great, but it really does upset me. What about Seltas and Seltas Queen? See, this one has some decent reasoning. Obviously, Seltas Queen already has a rider, Seltas. But imagine if you got them as some sort of cool combo Monstie where it was always a baby Seltas on top of a baby Seltas Queen, then the kinship riding mode is you sitting on top of the Seltas that's sitting on top of the Seltas Queen like a hat on a hat on a hat of death. More so than that, I actually thought it was really cool that they added Desert Seltas Queen 2 to the game as a way of essentially fighting Seltas Queen but without the Seltas, as that is what she is in Stories. But unfortunately, it also gave me a second burst of hope. It made a lot of sense in my head, at least. Sure, regular Seltas Queen can't be a Monstie because she's already being ridden by a Seltas, right? But Desert Seltas Queen is rider free, Seltas free. So maybe, but no. Neither one. I really wanted my own Scorpion tank, man, but no. I guess it's all for our own good, though. After all, they'd have to make the game as a whole about 10 times harder if they gave us access to something like Plesioth. I mean, they even acknowledge that he literally has a hyperspace tackle. I bet you this thing would knock Nergigante 12 ways to Sunday. Too bad we can't test that. Well, I mean, I guess except for trying to get our own Monstie Nergigante to die to an enemy Plesioth, but that just isn't the same. Plesioth is on the same wavelength as Duramboros to me. here. It's not even a skeleton or animation problem, really, because in theory, wouldn't he just be a reskin of a Cephadrome? Players can ride Cephadrome, who's another Piscine Wyvern, but Plesioth is mysteriously unholdable. This one is especially egregious for a number of reasons, though. One being that the game has a sort of ridiculously low number of water Monsties to begin with, so another one would be a very genuinely good thing to just have around. But then there's also the fact that the Monster Hunter Twitter account itself put out this tweet a while back before the release of the game, directly saying to rule the seas with fan favorite Plesioth or Legiacris. And I don't know about you guys, but I've looked at this tweet a good couple of hundred times, and I find it really hard to not understand that to imply that Plesioth will be a Monstie, which he's not. That's just how it reads to me. And it tells me that Plesioth was expected to be a Monstie at some point, and it may even have been very late in the development process that this changed, given that this tweet was only made a month before the release of the game itself. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was this some sort of time crunch problem? Were Plesioth's hips just so strong that he was essentially a game-breaking bug? Or I guess was a game-breaking fish. A game-breaking bug is more likely the reason that Seltas was omitted. Then, of course, we have the monsters from the first game who made it back into Stories 2, but don't have their Monsties again. This is Agnaktor and Daimyo Hermitaur. It's actually really sad to me to go through this list and realize just how many probably would have been in my party, like my full-time party. I 100% would have carried a crab around forever. Duramboros would have been my main boy, like my main monster. I would have put all of my power into him, and any combination of Seltas and Seltas Queen probably would have been in my party too. Almost definitely, actually. As much as it may feel like I might be missing the forest for the trees here, talking about something so small relative to the massive, beautiful game that we've been given, this is something that is undeniably affecting my experience a major amount. Every time I run into any of these creatures, I think about this deeply. It may not affect everyone, and it doesn't affect everyone the same amount, for sure. But for me and my animal and monster preferences, it's actually genuinely changed at least half of my permanent monster party, and that's sort of a big deal, isn't it? Agnaktor I sort of skirted over quickly, but he's a fan favorite as well. With that good old clack-clack beam that he's got, he just sort of gets ignored. Yeah, he's got a bit of a pointy fin going on along his back, but we could work with that if we really wanted to. We've worked through worse. I guess the main thing here is Agnaktor and Daimyo Hermitaur being non-Monsties in the first game felt entirely like a hitbox based decision. Animations and just the general shape of their body would have been difficult. Putting a saddle and rider on top of their model would make it get really funky, either clip through the model or just look insane compared to the rest of the riding positions in the rest of the game. I don't feel that way, however, about the missing Monsties in Stories 2. Duramboros is a brute wyvern, which is very common. Tetsucabra is a bit unique, but Zamtrios is an amphibian as well, and he's already a thing in the game. Seltas and Seltas Queen are a bit oddly shaped, sure, but Plesioth is just another Piscine Wyvern. So at least 3 out of the 4 ones that weren't a problem for Stories 1 have their shape accounted for by other monsters being ridden around by players as we speak. In Stories 1, I understood why those monsters weren't rideable. I didn't like it, but it made sense to me. In Stories 2, I just don't get it, and that is probably what makes it feel worst of all for me. I love these monsters. Maybe I could accept them not being Monsties if I had some sort of context as to why, but how can one achieve closure with so much missing information? Duramboros, I love you, my big tree-eating cow friend, but for now, we must stay separated, and I don't really understand why. I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been a bit of a ranty discussion about the missing Monsties of Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin. Am I overreacting a little bit, or is this right to be questioning of? Does this even affect you personally? Do you even care about any of these Monsties at all? Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.